Welcome to the Not So Kind Regards podcast. I'm Maddy Birdcage.
And I'm Caroline Moss.
We are done with the digital fluff and pleasantries.
And we're here to talk straight about brand building, digital marketing, and personal growth.
This episode is of course brought to you by Birdcage Marketing, the forward-thinking business growth and digital marketing brand that started this all. If you are a small, medium, or large-size business, don't know how to get started or need to tighten up your digital marketing efforts, we are currently taking on new strategy and virtual marketing manager clients. Let us shape your strategy, give you the action steps you need to implement, and then hold your hand as you and or your team implement the exact process that will take you from where you are now to where you want to be. To get started, book your discovery call at birdcagemarketing.com.au and let's do this. Now, back to the episode.
Hey, Maddy.
Hey, Caroline.
How's it going today?
Great. I'm really excited to dive into the perfectionist mind.
And we would say that's more my brain out of the two of us, hey?
I can relate very slightly because I feel like if I'm going to perfectionist mode, it's a really bad thing. But I'm really interested to hear more about the challenges that you face and then how you've been able to overcome it to still achieve success in your career.
Yeah. Yeah, cool.
How do people know if they're a perfectionist?
Okay, so I would say if you're a perfectionist if you automatically go, okay, I'm an overthinker, I'm an overanalyzer, I have to think of all the things, all the what ifs before I take action on something. I have to, you feel really good in the strategy and the planning and the to-do lists. And I love sitting in a strategy. I love sitting in the planning mode, that's, and then it's oh crap, I got to take action now. And it's all those fears start coming up of, have I planned enough? Am I going to make a mistake? Am I going to be a failure at this? Are people going to judge me for not having prepared enough? That's a big one too.
I feel because everyone except my sister and I in the team are actually perfectionists. And I feel like from mentoring and supporting the team with what they're doing, the worst thing that can happen to a perfectionist is being caught out, not having been prepared. So if I think about some of our strategists, if they're on a call with a client and the client drops something on them that was oh, that was in an email I sent you, that's the worst thing that could ever happen to them. Yeah,
that feels like the final Jenga block being pulled out and you're crumbling down.
It's not a great feeling. If your job's client service you should be on top of it. But it's it's unrealistic to think that you can get it right 100% of the time.
It is unrealistic.
So what have you done to navigate through with this? Because just being a multi-passionate where having all of these different focuses and being able to juggle so many different things, it's actually your superpower. Being a perfectionist can also be a superpower if channeled correctly.
Definitely.
So how do you channel it?
You have to start to identify what's helpful and what's not towards getting towards your goal. So if there are certain what ifs that are helpful, which there are, because it's really good to be prepared for things. It's really good to even go have a plan B or a plan C. It's good to kind of try to anticipate what clients are going to ask you or some of the things that could go wrong in a marketing campaign because things go wrong. But you have to you can't sit in that what if, and go down that wormhole of you start to spiral, basically. What you have to do is you have to start to back yourself and go, well, if this happens, I have proven to myself from previous things going wrong that I always can get myself out of this, or I can always find a solution, or I can, and it's never 100% my fault either.
And so how do you flick that switch? It's almost this looping. It's almost like this OCD looping where it's you could just show up every day and sit in front of a computer and keep strategizing, keep planning. And then how do you then just do the thing? Because for me, as a multi-passionate, I'm just fucking do it.
Just do the thing.
Just do it. But for you as a perfectionist, what strategies have you learned to flick that switch?
I think I say this a lot in our podcast and I say this a lot in life. It's a skill you have to develop. And it's like a muscle that you're growing. So you have to first start to be self-aware that you're a perfectionist and identify what's helpful and what's not helpful. And if you're constantly just sitting in planning mode and not doing something, if you're taking 3 hours to write a social media post because you want it to be perfect, because you're worried that you're going to misspell something, if you're, holding on to a client project and delaying it before you can deliver it. Can you think of any more examples like that?
Yeah, I've got some ideas. See, isn't it so funny? We're so good at mentoring the opposite version of us.
Yeah.
Prove to yourself that you are safe even if you make a mistake.
Yes, that's a big thing.
So my challenge would be send the thing out before you're ready. And then, or even I would challenge yourself to put a social media post up with a spelling mistake in it and then see what happens. Guess what? Nothing happens.
I think that's part of it is you start to have life experiences where you do make a mistake and you can go, this is the moment that I either crumble or this is the moment that I build resilience. And that's a big thing, I think, as a perfectionist, is building that resilience muscle and going, I am still worthy, even if I make a mistake. Spelling things are gonna, so I've had really harsh bosses before, and that was part of it too. Like, I've always been super self-critical of myself because it's like what I saw growing up. It's like you achieve high, you don't make mistakes, there's not a lot of room for error. You just have to try 100%. Like, you always have to give it your best. And then I had bosses who were like, I can't believe you posted something with the wrong time on it, the wrong date on it. Like, come on, team. Like, you can do better than this. And then that's just like echoing what you're already criticizing yourself about. And that's really hard. And then you get older and you start to back yourself and you get more life experience. And you start to put things in perspective as well, I think, and therapy. Like, I have gone to therapy. I've done the journaling. I listen to a lot of psychology podcasts. And you just start to realize, like we've talked about in previous episodes, you set your values and you go, is being perfect one of my life values? And it's absolutely not, even though it's like one of my mental health conditions.
Yeah.
It's like my values are actually like playfulness and having fun. And it's like if perfectionism is getting in the way of those things, especially like when it comes to now being a parent and the home duties, it's like if that's getting in the way of me having fun and being present, those are more important to me than having the perfect X, Y, Z.
100%. I think also what perfectionists need to realize is that there is no such thing as failure. I say this all the time.
And there's no such thing as perfect.
Well, no. Is there? Maybe there is. Do you think
in
utopia? Do you think in one sphere of life and somewhere, do you know what I almost think of what perfect is? I mean, some people would argue that perfect is not when something can be added, but when nothing else can be taken away. That some artist said that. I don't know. I would argue perfection is actually like the messy chaos. If you think of like a perfect Renaissance painting and how chaotic and how much there is going on at any given time, like it's almost like the imperfection is the perfection. So yeah.
But that's the thing, the imperfection is the perfection. We were just talking about somebody we both look up to in like the business and manifestation space, and she's called Manifestation Babe. And just how she is like a very smart, very successful businesswoman, and she does things chaotically. Like she'll record podcast episodes on her phone in her car.
Yeah.
Maddie said she'll like
aspiration.
She'll just start coughing in the middle of a course or something and leave that in there. You know, she is the opposite of perfectionism because she has such high self-worth because that's what she teaches.
And it's kind of like she's perfect for that, right? Yeah.
But it's like the people who are succeeding are the people who are not scared to make a mistake. I think that's what we're trying to get at. Once you learn that you're going to cope with those mistakes and that they're part of the learning process and that mistakes actually make you better at your job because those are the biggest learning experiences. Yeah.
If I think of what I've learned, we were talking about an old client this morning, Caroline and I, and talking about how I would never go back to working for a client like, well, them, but a client like that ever again, even though the paycheck was huge every single month. But a lot of stars would have to align for me to accept a project that big every single month again. But like that And I said to Caroline, I said, taking on that client was actually the start of the downfall that we had a few years ago. And then, Caroline said, yeah, but you learned from that. Think of everything you learned from that. It literally...
And everything I learned from that. I was like the lead of their project.
It literally transformed how we work as an agency now. That one client, that disastrous one client.
Yeah.
Transformed how we now do what we do. And now we're leading the way on how agencies should be working with clients.
And it transformed kind of what I thought I wanted out of my career as well, which was like high stress, high power. And this was all while I was pregnant, and the pregnancy hormones were through the roof too. And you knew before I knew, you said when you come back from maternity leave, you're not going to want to manage big projects like this. You're going to want to be doing something different.
Yeah. Well, it's because I've been there. Yeah. We have two types of clients that come to us, or students. Multi-passionates who dive in and will start anything but tend to not finish. And then perfectionists who don't start anything properly.
Or who don't post on social media for a month because they're so worried about writing the wrong caption. Or I would say both of them come back to trusting your decision-making skills.
Do you know what I think it is? I think for both of them, if you're, like, I'm sure there are people very much middle of the road and they probably don't have the problems that, like, we might experience as...
I feel like they're not in our universe, though.
Yeah, do they exist?
I don't know. They would probably just go work in, like, a cubicle or something.
No offense. Couldn't do it.
Probably not listening to this podcast.
Yeah, you're right. It's kind of like we're dealing with two ends of the extreme. Right? And it's like if you're the extreme perfectionist, if you're the extreme multi-passionate, you're probably very ambitious, is what I would say. But you're also quite stuck in a lot of areas.
Would you say most like marketers, not just entrepreneurs, but marketers would be more like your team, like more perfectionists? Like, do you know many marketers who are multi-passionates and who are experienced marketers?
None that lead a team.
Yeah.
So go me.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, actually none that lead a team. I actually know quite a few creators, content creators that I speak with, and they've had teams, they've shut their teams down, which, I mean, I could have been very tempted to do the same a few years back, not have a team because I struggled. But then I just got to learn how to hire the right people. And this is the thing, this is what these episodes are about. They're talking about how do you negotiate with...
How you're already naturally inclined.
Yes.
Yeah, your superpowers.
Exactly. How do you negotiate with, some people might call them a curse or a downfall, to be ADHD, multi-passionate, or to be OCD. Perfectionist.
Yeah.
But I believe that if you really tap into these and you use them the right way, they do become your superpower, because it's like you kind of at the end, each end of the spectrum. And if you are like at the end of the spectrum, such a perfectionist, it means you can deliver things to an incredibly high standard. And you can do things 10 million times better than the person next to you, right? So if that's the case, if you as a perfectionist who tends to think of everything, pre-plans for everything, can deliver at a high standard, if you can simply figure out how to overcome the inaction piece, that's when you're unstoppable. And it's the same with the multi-passionate. If you are all the way at the end of the multi-passionate spectrum, like I am, like my sister is, where it's like we're inspired by new ideas literally every few seconds, I dare say. If you can figure out how to channel and focus that, that's when you become unstoppable. It's when you deny those things about yourself that you become middle of the road. No one wants to be that. No one wants to work in a cubicle.
No, or just unhappy.
Yeah. Not living authentically.
Yeah, so what I would say with being a perfectionist is start to identify those, like, anywhere where you're procrastinating, anywhere where you're self-criticizing and it's holding you back from completing the work, anywhere where it's stopping you from living in your values as well. Like if, moving this thing there, or moving this thing, like doing this, or like rewriting a sentence 20 million times. Like,
do people do that?
Yeah. I've sat on writing pieces for very long times.
Wow.
But that's where you have to start to self-identify. And now, like, I don't know which end of the spectrum my husband sits on, but he cannot spell for his life when he sends a text message. And now I text so much more like him, but I used to have to put a period and the full stop in the right place. I used to have a comma, everything. And now it's like I just hit send, and it's like it's exposure therapy for me.
Yeah.
And it's like I need people to see that and it's like for me to go like, oh, well, I misspelled something. Oh, well. I'm not perfect.
eye twitching.
Yeah. And like I'll do that now with like social media posts. Like I try not, I expect to check the spelling maybe once or twice rather than like 10 times. Or I don't wait to like have my perfect hashtag strategy or perfect this or perfect that. It's like it just have to. That was working with you actually when I first started posting on TikTok, because you were like, you just need to post more because that's where you're going to learn the most. And so I was like, okay, well, if this is stopping me because I think I need to have the perfect SEO strategy and the perfect caption and the perfect this and the perfect that and the perfect lighting and nothing's going to be perfect. So just freaking post and I'll learn as I go.
Yeah.
And like it's taken me a year to level up my content.
Yeah, interesting. I think what we need to figure out, like what perfectionists really need to figure out is, why are you so afraid of potentially failing? I'll give you a hint. It's because you're telling yourself stories that aren't reality. So what you're basically telling yourself is, and this is for people that have a fear of failure, it's, if I fail at this, it means that I am insert your biggest fear here. It means that I am a bad person. I am unlovable.
I'm a fraud.
I'm a fraud. I'm dumb. I can't do anything right. Like, it's because these are stories that you're telling yourself, which you've inherited from how you were socialized growing up, from your teachers, from your parents, from society, from all of these things, when the reality is there is no such thing as failure if you simply do not give up. Even if you do give up, reframe that, my friend. That is a pivot. That isn't quitting. That is a pivot. And that's what, you just keep going. The only way you can fail, in my mind, is if you do something once and you're like, well, see, I can't do it.
Yeah.
That's failure.
You see that in everything. People are just like, oh, I'm just bad at that. So I'm not going to even try.
It's like, well, no, you decide whether you fail or not, because you can decide, well, it just didn't work that way. I'll try it another way. And so I think that's what the perfectionist can learn from the multi-passionate. It's that, oh, well, that didn't work. I'm bored of this. Let's try something else.
I think what's interesting about me, if I do say so myself,
well, let me be the decider of this.
I can be bad at something for a really long time and stick with it. I don't know if that's like perfectionism.
I think that's stubbornness.
I think I'm just stubborn. Like if I look at sports like that I've stuck at, like I'm not naturally good at a lot of things, but I'm like, I'm going to figure this out because it's fun.
So funny. All of you strategists are exactly the same, because that's what Maria's like as well.
Really?
It's like if she finds something hard and you're the same. If you guys find something hard, it's like, well, I better figure this out.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's again the superpower of a perfectionist.
Yeah.
It's the fact that it's like, I'm going to get this perfect. Yeah. Like you challenge yourself to get it perfect, but then you do need to kind of like release that and be like, I'm 80% of the way there. That's good enough.
Which is so good about hanging out with you and working under you, obviously. It's like, sometimes I'll be like, well, should I go like do this course or this or that? You're like, Caroline, you know what you're talking about. And then I turn that onto my mentorship clients. I'm like, you actually know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
You don't need to go study for 10 more hours. Like you're going to learn as you deliver. It's like you learn as you go. Learning from experience is the biggest learning experience in life. Like you can study all you want, but until you start doing.
This is coming from people that have done many university degrees in our profession, what we currently do, and yet I don't think we learn anything from them.
Some things are starting to trickle back in from communication.
You reckon?
I think it's just like there's so many persuasion tools that I want to go back and study again now.
Well, Maria brought in her old uni books, and she's the oldest out of all of us at the ripe old age of, 36 or something? I don't know. Some of the books were actually really interesting, like when it comes to persuasion and psychology and all that kind of stuff. So like
the theory is still there because humans are humaning.
But I didn't learn any of that. Mind you, I did do an arts degree in media and then advertising, my master's degree. So maybe it was different.
I did a communications degree, and then I got to my first job in SEO, and I was like, I had to Google what SEO was on the first day of my job.
Isn't that ironic? Googling what SEO is.
And then But then it's like, I felt like I didn't learn anything practical in my degree, whereas my friend got like a PR and advertising degree, and she's not in that field anymore, but she was like, it was very practical, hands-on, whereas I learned like media criticism, ethics, persuasion, like logical fallacies, interpersonal communication. And only now, 12 years, I don't know how long ago I did uni, 12 years later, something
Did you
like
graduate?
that. 2013?
Yeah.
Yeah, 2013. Only now am I starting to see that, it was a really important, I think it's just like everyone should learn it for life pretty much, especially when it comes to politics.
You mean how to communicate with other humans?
Yeah, and like persuasive tools that people use to influence others that aren't always ethical or logical.
Like
or
propaganda.
logical fallacies. Yeah, propaganda. We like studied old ads and like they were messed up. Like they used to make women use like Clorox, which is like household cleaning stuff to, can I say douche on our podcast?
Yeah.
Like,
you can say whatever you want.
it's our podcast.
It's not racist. I don't like racist people.
But yeah, there was a lot of sexist ads back then. And there was other ads where like women were like crying in the bedroom and their husbands were coming home, and it was like an ad for, some kind of douching product. It was all about douching. Nobody douches anymore.
Pretty sure it's really bad for you.
I know, exactly. And they were making these women do it, and it was terrible for their like pH systems.
Wellness 60s style. Yeah. Jack was showing me some old like Marlboro ads back in the day.
Marlboro's very like the everyman,
That was just
isn't
cool.
it?
Nah, they were cool.
Oh, the cool
They
dude.
were like a
the
cowboy.
aspirin. Yeah.
It's like the cowboy. Like it was
That's what I
cool.
felt like everybody wanted to be.
Yeah, but it's not the everyman. It's definitely more like,
The outlaw.
yeah. It's like cool.
Yeah, cool dude.
That's why smoking's cool.
Okay, what were we talking about? I don't know. Being a perfectionist, but still, so being a perfectionist, it does drive you to achieve and learn. Like, I'm definitely a lifelong learner, and I'm proud of that part of myself. And I'm like very happy to be in the process of learning something too. Like, I find that fun. Obviously, because like the strategy part and the planning part is the fun part for me.
I feel like it's difficult to talk about how you approach your perfectionism now, because you are, as
Healing ongoing.
healed at this level, waiting until the next level.
Yeah.
That it's like, okay, the perfectionism that you see coming through from your one-on-one coaching clients.
Yes.
What advice do you seem to be giving over and over?
So a lot of my coaching clients, some of them, will get so busy with work, and they're so busy delivering the level of work that they want to deliver in their business to their clients that it's really hard for them to then go and work on their marketing because the perfectionism comes from the external validation of the people who are paying you versus the future marketing that your business needs. But then you get in your head and you go, well, I can't make time for this, or I can't do a whole week's worth of this or that, or, it's like you just have huge expectations of what you can deliver. And so it's what I try to do is help them get really realistic about, okay, when you have really big workloads, how can we still fit a half hour to an hour of marketing in every single day?
Yeah.
And if you have more quieter workloads, how do we not go on a spiral of, oh my gosh, my work is drying up and look at this as a gift, and it's a time, and it's not a time to overanalyze and go, oh my gosh, I don't know what to post, because you have a strategy.
Yeah.
You can reach out to me via email and on Instagram, and we can work through this.
The advice for perfectionists seems to be the same as multi-passionates, but the difference is, no, it's actually the same. It's have your clear life values to figure out like what is important to you, what should you be focusing on getting as perfect as you can versus what should you be letting go. That's your life strategy, your vision board. Then it's your marketing strategy to make sure that you have a plan and you're not overthinking and you're simply taking action on what feels aligned to you. And then it's having the right support, the right people to get you out of your own head, because my God, we've both, like, you are currently coaching. I've done a lot of coaching in the past. It is so easy to identify the patterns, the energy, the stage of life, the thinking that your clients are going through, but it's so hard to pick it up on yourself.
Yeah.
And we do a lot of like reflective work with each other. Like even this morning when Caroline arrived in from Cairns, before we sat down and did the podcast, I kind of unloaded onto Caroline and she reflects back to me what's going on. And, you know, I hope that's what we do. It's about supporting each other, but it's about, I think the benefit we have is that because so many of our team are coaches, it's almost like having an in-house therapist.
And we all are into personal development. And we're all into human psychology because we're marketers.
Yeah.
And we're all into mindset stuff.
Yeah.
Because you can't work at Birdcage and not be.
No. No. But it's so hard to pick it up on yourself. And that's why coaching works. That's why not everyone is a great coach, obviously. But it's like, that's why coaching isn't simply teaching people how to do marketing. It's also not simply talking about manifestation. It's being able to, number one, identify what is actually happening with your client at that time. Number two, what they need from you emotionally, spiritually, practically, strategically, all of the E's. And then it's also then like holding the vision for them and keeping them on track.
Can you talk about those 6
support systems that you need?
That you did in your webinar the other day? That was really cool.
So what I basically identified is that we need creatives and multi-passionates especially, and perfectionists as well. We need 6 levels of support, or we need support in 6 different areas in order to be successful. It's not saying that if you don't have these, you can't be successful, but from my experience, when I eventually built support in all of these areas, that's when things got a lot easier for me. So number 1 is skills and knowledge. So it's like learning new things. Number 2 is strategic vision holding. So like holding the vision for you. Number 3 is operationally. So that's like the practical implementation of stuff. Number 4 is creatively.
Yeah.
And that's like having a brainstorming.
You said like a professional untangler.
Professional untangler, where it's like having creative back and forth and brainstorming and that kind of thing. Number 5 is financially, because we live in a capitalist world where we need money to make our lives easier. And so you need someone who is supporting you, or many people who are supporting you in managing this very important asset. And then you need a personal support, that is self-care. So like health and fitness, that is kids and family, that is home life, that is all that like personal care stuff. You need support in all 6 of those areas, and it's no surprise that 5 of those is the support you can get from Birdcage Marketing School. That is on purpose. And I always like to joke and say, one day we'll have the 6th where we can come to your house and make sure you get your massage and that your kids are taken care of and that your meals are cooked, and maybe one day the ultimate support for creatives and entrepreneurs.
I think as moms and as women who are just by default end up picking up a lot of the load in the domestic sphere, that is something we talk to students and coaching clients, mentoring clients a lot about. And you'd think like, oh, you're a marketer, why are you talking to me about this? But it's like, we understand that if you're running a business as a woman and you have kids and you're expected to run the household and you have no support in any of those facets, like no wonder you're burning out and no wonder you can't make time for everything, because that's like the job of 10 people.
Yeah.
And you're putting this pressure on yourself to be able to do that all and do it well and have the energy at the end of the day to keep going.
That's the thing. It's like something that we've learned is that we can teach all the great marketing strategies and tactics and frameworks in the entire world. But if you don't have the time or the mental capacity to execute it, what's the point? And so that's why we are so passionate about supporting as many aspects of those support systems that you need. And I do wish we could provide the personal and home support one, because I know that is such a huge load for so many people, but it's like, how do you do that?
Yeah.
As an online marketing school.
It is the job of a lot of people in that space. And a lot of women do it all on their own, especially if you have like a partner who goes away to work and different things like that. Or you've got the kids at home. Or just doesn't support you. But how many people have we been in like office hours? So our student office hours that they get with us once a month. And you're talking to them about like, can you cut corners at dinner time so that like Because they're like, no, I have to make 5 different meals for my 5 different kids who are all picky. It's like, well, how is that affecting you at work? Not just time-wise, but mental load. You're having to plan that many meals, plan all those groceries, and then that means you can't deliver something in your work or think creatively about a problem in your work because you're focusing on this other thing.
100%. And that's something I figured out quite a few years ago. It was when I was struggling with money still, and I was finding it hard to justify like having a cleaner or paying for childcare or doing any of that stuff. And then I was like, hold on, if my hourly rate is $120 and a cleaner's hourly rate is $45, it means that if I do 3 hours of work while I have a cleaner here for 3 hours, I'm actually making money. And that's how I've then equated absolutely everything in my life back to time is money, which sounds like such a 90s businessman demeanor thing and evil, but it is.
But it helped you feel less guilt about it.
Yeah. And now I've gone the next step, which is where I want everyone to go. It's like, well, actually, you don't even need to be working while your cleaner is cleaning. You could be out with your family having a nice time.
Because self-care pays dividends in your business as well.
If you invest in yourself, invest in your energy, invest in your time, you will lead to making more money when you're actually at work later on. But yeah, that's how I look at everything. That's why I now have someone that comes to the office once a fortnight to clean my car. We have a cleaner twice a week in the house. Well, we did have an ironing lady, but my husband's kind of taken that over again. My mum literally looks after all of our financials. I'm outsourcing my renovations to my dad.
Good. That would be a nightmare to manage.
I don't know.
He's renovating or he's managing the renovation?
Both.
Oh.
One day when he finishes his house that he's flipping. But like I pay my mother, and I will be paying my father for this as well. Like I'm going to be paying money for it, but it's like I already can't keep up with what my brain is thinking about. So why would I add more to my plate? Okay, so let's get back to these perfectionist folk. Someone is currently sitting here and is like, that is me. I'm a perfectionist. I am constantly stuck in this loop of planning. I do like one post every few days. It takes me 3 hours to write. I'm not getting anywhere. Like, I just don't know how to get out of this. Like, what are the next 3 practical steps they need to take to sort their shit out?
You know, it'd be really easy for me to say, just like get out of your own way and start acting. But it's like, yes, we need to do that. But how do you get there? You need to find support. You need to find what motivates you to take action. So one thing I would say is like, we talk about, which a lot of people talk about in the social media space, and it's a little bit annoying, but your why. But seriously, like, what is your message? How are you impacting people? If what you're doing is holding you back from sharing something that could just change one person's life or just make them have a tiny bit better day or make them smile, wouldn't you want to share that over holding it back? So that would be the first thing. The second thing would be, so like something that I've realized in my 30s, that I tried to DIY everything in my 20s, but in my 30s, I started paying professionals to do things. So like a nutritionist, you know, going to a Pilates studio rather than trying to work out at home, doing, you know, working with a personal branding coach. Outsourcing, things like that. Like I have a fortnightly cleaner now. Yeah. You know, it's like I've tried to do DIY everything, and I realize that when I pay for something, I'm more motivated to take action on it because somebody's holding me accountable.
Yeah.
Even if they're not literally going, hey, what are you doing? It's like that money, that value that I've put into it holds me accountable now. And because I'm a perfectionist, I am a teacher's pet. So with my nutritionist, I wanted to be her best nutrition client ever. And guess what? She's one of my good friends now. So I achieved that.
You perfected out on that one.
I'll ask her if that's why.
Agreed. That's the thing. This is what I'm saying. Like being a perfectionist, like you might be so hard on yourself. You're like, I don't take any action because I want everything to be perfect. But it's like, that's actually like, use that to your advantage. Like sign up and commit to something.
Yeah.
Sign up and start working with people like us that know how to manage your superpower, and then use that to your advantage. Use the fact that I've paid money for this, so I'm going to do this perfect.
Yeah.
And then you get the result.
Yeah. And then you get the validation of your coach going, that's perfect. And then you're like, ding, 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 ding.
And then we're just stuck in an endless loop of perfection hunting. What do you reckon, Murphy?
That's a joke, obviously.
Yeah.
But You do just have to find the steps. If you like planning, then plan out the steps you need to take to get there. Figure out what motivates you. Figure out your values. Figure out why you want to do this thing in the first place. And then that should motivate you enough to take the action.
Yeah, agree.
And get out there and start doing. Post that thing that's been in your drafts.
Just
for a
close
month.
your eyes and post it.
Just post it. Send that thing to the client. Send the proposal. Send the quote.
Yeah.
Send it. Charge what you're worth.
Yeah.
Put an extra 0 on there.
Yeah.
It scares you, but do it.
And then you'll be like me one day and you'll be like, I don't proofread a single thing I've sent out in the last 12 months. All right. Well done. Good work, everyone. Keep trying.
You've got this.
You got it.
Come chat to us. Send us a message on Instagram if you need.
Yeah.
If you've noticed this or just started noticing it and you need a little bit of untangling.
Yeah. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.